You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest today, I think, will be incredibly useful to all listeners. His name is Daniel Packard. He's a UC Berkeley mechanical engineer, but he's the CEO of what's called Permanent Anxiety Solutions. They help people with anxiety, fears, doubts, and a whole host of other, mental issues that seem to plague everyone that I know and everyone that probably you may know as a listener. I shared a story with Daniel before we started. I just want to share this with everyone. I used to, so I'm just about 50 years old. For most of my life, I've been involved in entrepreneurial efforts, and people around me would say, how do you handle the stress? Or you must be very stressed. And I didn't feel so bad. I said, I'm fine, and I felt fine. But maybe as the audience may be able to relate to, over the past 4 or 5 years, especially since COVID, I'm starting to feel anxiety more often. I'm starting to feel fear and doubts and, have all these issues. And I see it in my family and my wife and my teenage children. So I'm doing this podcast in particular to help myself, to help you, the listeners, and to help my family, because it's not nice to go around with all these things in your head and all these issues. So with that being said, welcome, Daniel. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Richard. Thanks for being honest and vulnerable and upfront, and just say, I'm struggling. And it matters because, especially with professionals are good at what they do because they handle it, they get it done, and they can push through. And we work with a lot of professionals who come to us and they say, man, I'm really struggling. Well, what's wrong with me? Nobody else is struggling. And, people I work with, the other doctors, the other lawyers, they seem fine. And I interrupt them and I say, first of all, they might be fine. You don't. We work with a lot of people that will fully admit, I'm wearing a mask, I'm white knuckling it. And so first of all, if you think you're alone, most people are struggling with some version of fear, doubt, and anxiety. Now, they may be functioning on the surface, but they're struggling. But also, even if you're not struggling with these things, we work with two groups of people. One is people that have fear, doubt, and anxiety that's really holding them back. We work with other professionals and entrepreneurs and leaders where it's not stopping them. They're high functioning, they're doing well, but they're saying, if I didn't have the fear, doubt, and anxiety, I would enjoy what I do more. I'd make more money. I'd be more productive. I'd be a better husband or wife or parent or person. So I appreciate you, Richard, being honest, but I want to tell all of your listeners out there, A, you're not alone, and B, you just don't have to live like this, because what we do, and I always like to be clear, really clear about what we do up front, because there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of experts out there talking about fear, doubt, and anxiety, and your audience is primarily professionals and their time is limited. And why would you listen to me? It's because what we're doing is innovative, and I like to be clear so the value of why you'd keep listening. And what we're doing that we innovated, and I'll tell you the story in a bit, is we saw, and I saw in myself, and maybe Richard, you can see in yourself, that for areas such as anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, and low confidence, we call them the Funky Five. And it's not a funk band from the 70s, although it might be. But it's basically professionals struggle with either one or multiples of those. And when I struggled with all of those, I saw, and your audience has probably seen, that you can go to a therapist, a psychologist, a guru, a teacher, a coach, and at best, what you'll find is someone who will give you tips and tools to give you awareness and help you manage it. And that's better than nothing. But it's kind of like your boat has a hole in it and it's sinking and someone says, here's a bucket. You can manage the sinking, and hey, it's way better than drowning and getting eaten by sharks. But let's be honest, you're still managing it. You're always bailing. And so one, you can't fully enjoy your boat as much because you're bailing all the time. Secondly, it's exhausting, and all the energy that goes into bailing could be to do other things. So my company spent 8 years to develop a simple understanding so that you can move beyond managing this stuff to just being free of it quickly, permanently, measurably in 6 weeks. And our motto is no more Band-Aids, just full life upgrades. So if you struggle with one or multiples of the Funky Five and you know how to manage it, but oh my God, if you were free of it, your life would be happier and more successful. I'm going to show you how that's possible and the innovative theories we made that make that possible.
Well, let me start off with something unusual. What percentage of people that you work with are actually afraid of feeling better? Maybe it's a weird thing to say, but I bet you that a certain part of the population, like they're so caught up in this for so long that they're actually afraid to feel better. And so they don't do this work to help themselves.
I got to give you gold stars, Richard. That is an excellent point and question that most people don't bring up because we think, oh, I want to be better. I want to change. Of course, logically, but it's a real issue. And the fact that you're bringing up at the start is very insightful because when we spent 8 years to develop this and over $1 million in research, we built this program that was solving this stuff quickly. And because I grew up where my dad was a physicist and he told me, results matter. When we built this program, it was all about results. And when people work with us, we measure their results numerically, but also at the end, we don't charge you at the beginning when we work with clients because we haven't gotten you results. Also, people are too skeptical, and so we lower the risk, but we only get paid at the end when you are free of what you're struggling with. Now, logically, you would think, who wouldn't want to be free of the funky five? And you only pay at the end, there's no risk. So everybody should try it, and they don't. And it's for that. That's a majority of the reason which you pointed out. I have people, this happened a month ago. This gentleman, he was a professional, he was a lawyer. He had anxiety, panic attacks, and procrastination. And he says, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. It's still here. I met somebody at a party. They told me their results and they mentioned that you only pay at the end. And I said, whoa. So we're talking, I'm telling him we can help him. I told him our success rate. And I said, you only pay at the end when it works. And in the beginning of the conversation, he was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. And so it got time for him to actually pull the trigger and move forward. And I started to see the sabotage. It's like, well, now maybe it's not the right time. And because I've had hundreds of sales calls, I've seen people sabotage. So I saw him and I said, logically, this is a good idea. Logically, you would tell a friend to try this, wouldn't you? He said, yeah, logically. And I said, and when exactly is a good time to be happy? You told me you're miserable. When is a better time? And I could see him kind of glitching. And anyway, I basically coached him and I showed him, are you afraid? Are you afraid to let this go? You've had it for so long. On some level, deep down, you feel broken and like there's something wrong with you. And you just know this familiar misery. And if this was just gone, does a little part of you feel afraid of that? He said, not a little part of me, a big part of me. And he said, oh my God, I'm afraid to let this go. And I said, yes. And he said, and I'm sabotaging right now. I said, yes. And it doesn't matter. He still talked himself out of it. And I even said to him, you're not going to do this because you're going to stay comfortable. There's no danger to doing this program. It's just a discomfort, the fear of change. He said, yeah. And I said, so you're telling me you're unwilling to be a little uncomfortable, to be happier for the rest of your life? And he said, yeah, pretty much. And so I see it every day and it breaks my heart. Logically, we all want change, but really when we work with people, it's like 1 in 1,000. We can help everybody, but only about 1 in 1,000, a brave, open-minded person who is motivated enough to be free of this so they can be the person they want to be. If the motivation is strong enough, it'll override the skepticism and the sabotage.
Well, I think there's another part of it that comes to mind. So sometimes about some things I felt, if I'm happy, if I relax, if I take my foot off the gas, then something bad's going to happen and I'm going to be a fool. I shouldn't have relaxed or let my guard down. I let this happen. It's my fault. I thought I could, let it go and I can't. And maybe that's another part of it.
Well, that's also part of it. And whether it's that particular voice, the reason I started my company, Innovate, a more effective solution was, I was where you are and where a lot of your audience is. I had anxiety, I had procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, low confidence, overthinking, you name it, I had it. I didn't have issues, I had freaking subscriptions. And, I spent 10 years and $100,000 going to the therapist, the psychologist, the gurus, the coaches. I lived in an ashram. I was probably in a cult. I was definitely in a cult. The point is, I tried all this stuff and it gave me tips and tools to manage it, but I still had it. So I started to feel broken, like there's something wrong with me. But also when these experts would tell me, oh, I can help you be free of this. I can help you unlock your potential. I can help you. I would believe them that I would fail and I'd feel broken and even feel like worse about myself. And so a lot of your audience has tried things from well-intentioned people, but they've been burned because a lot of these people overpromise and underdeliver. Deliver meaning getting them free of it quickly. And so I talked to a lot of people that are like, I've been burned in the past. This person told me they could. And I said, I get it. That's why we created this no charge, no change guarantee, because we're dealing with the fallout of all these experts taking a lot of people's money and left them holding the bag. And also the 8 years that we spent developing this program, those 8 years and the $1 million in research and development, working with 3,000 people all over the world, was to make sure we built a system with all the tools in one place and all the simple, easy to follow instructions so that you can't fail. Because people have this feeling of, well, maybe it'll work for others, but it won't work for me. And I'm telling you, the reason we have a 90% success rate, the reason that we can back up our results like this, where you only pay at the end, is because, yes, we want you to succeed and be free of this, but we don't want you to fail. I know that pain. And so that's another reason we charge at the end, is we're with you every step of the way. We're not going to take your money and leave you hanging, because that's going to make you feel worse. And we're here to make you feel better. So to all you people out there, though I'm going to try this and fail, that's how it's felt based in the stuff you've tried in the past. But what we have built is a real innovation, and you're not going to fail. You can't fail. We've spent 8 years to make sure you don't.
Okay. Oh, one quick thing I was going to say, it's funny is I know personal injury lawyers work in a similar way to you. They don't charge anything up front. They just get like a third of the winnings, on their case. So in a way, what you do resembles how they charge, by the way.
Thank you. And honestly, it's just the right thing to do. Anybody that gets results, not anybody, but most people that get results know they get results. They're like paying you at the end. When you take your car in, they fix it and you pay at the end. A lot of people, you pay at the end when you get the result, but the experts in what I call the improvement industrial complex, that's therapy, psychology, personal development, spirituality, they're not innovators. They're not solving this stuff quickly and measurably and consistently, so they can't have that guarantee or they'd go out of business. And frankly, they're not incentivized to solve things quickly. They're incentivized that you keep coming back for another retreat, another lesson, another video, another session. And I was trained at UC Berkeley to be an engineer. An engineer, we love results. We like to get to the root of it and build things that get results. And because we get results and our passion is results, we can charge at the end when you get results. And we're the only ones that do it. And it's because we get results.
Good. Well, that's excellent. We skipped over this. I usually ask how someone has gotten to do what they do. So, if you don't mind now, can you give a bit of background on what was your life like before you discovered this, and why did you discover it, and why are you so passionate about what you do?
Well, it's two passions coming together. The first one is, when I was 10, my dad was a scientist, and he sat me down and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, anybody can have a theory or an idea, but you don't know whether that theory or idea works. And he said, it's the person that gets results. In science, you start with a theory and then you test it and you get results. And then it's peer reviewed and they double check your results. He said, results matter. And that idea that results matter stuck with me. And also that when people want a solution, they don't want a theory or an idea. They want results. When people are in pain, they want results. And so growing up, my dad gave me access to his workshop and I became a little inventor, whether it was working on bikes or a sailboat, because my dad bought me a little sailboat. I would invent things. I would build a prototype and invent it and then test it and then get results and then refine it until it works. And for any of you system thinkers out there, it's very satisfying to see a problem, come up with a solution, test it, and then it gets a result. It's very satisfying. So I go to engineering school to learn how to be professionally trained. How do you look at a complex problem, break it down to it into its simple elements and mechanical mechanisms, and then you build a prototype and you test it and you get results. And it never works in the beginning. You then have to retest and calibrate and optimize until you get something that not only gets results, but gets consistent results. And engineers and inventors are really good at this. It's a certain mindset and it's a certain training. So the good news was I knew how to make things work, but not how to make life work. I knew how to make a robot that could play ping pong, but I had anxiety, perfectionism, people-pleasing, procrastination, low confidence. I didn't like who I was, and I wasn't happy. And so, I went looking for help. And like I said, it was 10 years and $100,000 spent. And honestly, Richard, I had some tips and tools and insights to manage it all, but it was still all there. The anxiety, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. I knew I was successful, but I knew there was a whole other level to me that existed that I wasn't gaining access to. And also I wasn't as happy, and I could see this stuff was still there. And kind of in a moment of pissed off desperation, I looked up at the sky, and whoever's up there listening, I just went, Like, what do you want from me? Obviously, this is a test. Obviously, I'm supposed to learn something, but I've been at this 10 years and I still have this fear, doubt, and anxiety, and I'm not happy. What do you want from me? And I wasn't expecting an answer. I was just in a moment of pissed off frustration. But I hear this sort of voice of what my dad said that says results matter. And I just looked at all the money I spent and the 10 years, and just the engineer in me looked at it objectively. And I said, these were well-intentioned people, but this is not great results. I'm not free of this. And $1 trillion a year is spent on this stuff globally. And if you look at it, things are in some ways getting worse. And I said, well, I'm an engineer. I'm trained to problem solve, and we're trained to innovate. And I looked at the improvement industrial complex, and I said, they don't really innovate. It's the same stuff kind of regurgitated and repackaged over and over again, which is fine, but it's not innovating, and it's not getting better results. And I said, I'm an engineer. We innovate. So I started my research company to see, could we reverse engineer an approach to struggle and happiness that was an innovation, meaning no more tips and tools to manage an awareness. You're free of it in a short period of time. It's measurable. It works for pretty much everyone. It's affordable, and results matter. And it was not easy. It was hard. It was 8 years. But the value of engineers is we stick with it. We go at us one solution and we just go at it. That's what inventors and engineers do. Edison did 1,000 light bulbs. Usually people give up around light bulb 29. The Wright brothers, they had the first prototype built. It took them 4 years of daily tweaking and optimizing and retesting. Most people aren't going to put that time in. Your average therapist, coach, spiritual teacher has a good business sharing what they know. They're not going to drop what they're doing and spend 8 years to innovate something. And that's what we did. I worked with addicts in South Africa. I worked with entrepreneurs in Europe. I worked with athletes in the US. This is all we did for 8 years. And when you put in that time to solve, we innovated this innovation, which is a 6-week online program with all the tools in one place. That's key. And the simple, easy to follow instructions such that if you follow the steps, you get the result. And the result is, whether it's anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, low confidence, anything that's a symptom of fear, doubt, and anxiety, it's either significantly gone or completely gone in 6 weeks. That's the innovation, the speed, the results, and again, the effectiveness. You only pay at the end when it gets results, and that's because we're getting the results.
Where does fear, anxiety, and all these other issues come from? And now that you've been in this for so long.
Well, it's a great question, and that was the big sort of innovation. Is we looked at what's going on, and we wanted to make it simpler and just understand what's really good, because there's a lot of theories out there. Why do people struggle? Is it trauma? Is it society? Is it social media? Is it our past? Is it my nervous system? Is it my mindset? Is it my neurons? There's all these theories on what's going on, but it's not really solving anything quickly, and it's leaving people really confused. We get people all the time saying, I don't know what's going on. Like when you said you have this anxiety that comes up, right, Richard? Now you're a smart, systems-minded guy. You're knowledgeable. Do you know for sure what the heck this is?
No, I don't know why. I try to develop techniques to deal with it. Like, we had a problem the other week, and, I said to my wife, and said, the things I worry about don't seem to happen. And then when problems happen, they come out of the blue, and I never could have imagined. So it's probably not worth it worrying about stuff as much, but, it's easy to say, but hard to do. That's just a small example of the self-talk that I try to generate to help myself, but it just doesn't take hold fully.
Well, what you just said is a very common, I don't know why this is happening. If you don't know why, you can't solve it. But then, all you can do is kind of white knuckle it, hold on, avoid things that, make it worse. That's about the best you can do. But the fact that so many people struggle with fear, doubt, and anxiety, and when you ask a person, really, do you know the actual mechanics and mechanisms of where this is coming from? They'll say no. Like, that's a serious problem that, modern psychology has been around 100 years, and most people don't even know. We didn't know until we went looking. Here's the simple explanation of what's going on. This is what allows us to solve this stuff quickly. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, what we saw is it feels like we have all these different problems. It feels like, I have anxiety, or I struggle with anxiety, or I have procrastination, or I have people-pleasing, or I have low confidence, or I'm a perfectionist. It feels like we have all these different problems. And in reality, mechanically, you don't have multiple problems. You have multiple symptoms of one thing. which is fear. You can say you're anxious or have anxiety, but you could also just say you're feeling a lot of fear and you call that fear feeling anxious. You could say you're a perfectionist, or you could say you're afraid to make a mistake. You could say you're a procrastinator, or you could say you're afraid to start or finish something. You could say you're a people pleaser, or you could say I'm afraid people won't like me, so I want everyone to be pleased. And you could say you lack confidence, or you could say you're afraid to be your true authentic self. So can you see that if simple is better because it gets us towards a solution, can you see that on some level, people aren't struggling with all these different problems? It's really just one thing, fear. Can you sort of see that?
Yeah, right. These are all manifestations of fear.
Exactly. Now, your audience doesn't need me to tell them that fear is a problem. Now, maybe they think, that's a really good point. I don't have procrastination. I'm fearful. But regardless of that awareness, your audience, already knows fear holds them back. Nobody is listening to this going, what? What is this thing called fear? I've never heard. We know, from the early times of the playground, we know fear affects us. It slows us down. It keeps us from okay. So that's not the big breakthrough. The issue is when people go looking for help with fear, the general approach is overcome the fear, face the fear, change your mindset around the fear, push through the fear, quiet the fear, or avoid things that bring up the fear. Now, if you just want to manage it, those are great. But from an efficiency point of view, why is overcoming the fear, facing the fear, or pushing through the fear not a very efficient approach?
I don't know. The nature of fear is to inspire inaction. If that's it's not an oxymoron. Fear. It paralyzes you. It can paralyze you, and it's not even rational too. Let me
just interrupt. The question was, even if it's paralyzing, if the advice you're given is push through the fear, overcome the fear, face the fear, why is that not a very efficient approach?
Because it intensifies the feeling, and no one wants to intensify it. They want it to go away, I would think.
Well, that's part of it, but basically the fear doesn't go away. If, overcoming the fear, I went to this coach who said, Daniel, you have all this fear, you need to overcome the fear. And I'm like, wow, it sounds great. So he gave me these tips and tools and strategies. And when I felt scared, I would overcome it. And it would help me for about 5 or 10 minutes. But the fear was never gone. So it's there waiting for me. So it's exhausting. That's why it's inefficient. But that's what's taught. Face the fear, change your mindset around the fear, push through the fear, avoid So the engineer in me said, wait a minute. What if we just figure out where all this fear is coming from and we get rid of it? Doesn't that sound more efficient?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is an embrace the suck U.S. Marines type thing. That's what it's sounding like.
No, it's the opposite of that.
Okay.
You can push through the fear in the moment to be functional. We work with soldiers. You can push through the fear it's great short term. But A, they come back, a lot of them, completely emotionally traumatized. But B, if you face the fear, it's still there. It's great for management, but it's not gone. Can you see it's just more efficient that it's gone?
Well, you're not pulling it out by the root, I guess. Maybe that's one analogy.
Yeah, you're not. And also, you don't understand the root cause of it. So here's the root cause. So we went looking for the root cause of fear. So first of all, we figured out what's not the cause. What's not the cause is what we're told by therapists, psychologists, coaches, and teachers. Primarily, we're told that fear is a problem of the mind. Change your mindset, change your scarcity thinking, mind over matter, quiet the negative thoughts in your head. Also, people are given pills to target the neurotransmitters in their mind, and it's called mental health. It's got the word mental right in there. So most approaches around fear are based on trying to address it at the mind level. Now, if that worked, if the mind was the root cause, great. But we saw in our research that the mind is not the root cause of fear. The mind isn't helping. It can say some very scary negative things that can keep you in a loop of fear, but it's not the root cause. It's not originating in the mind. Fear does not originate in the mind. Fear originates in the body for reasons which I'll explain, and then it spreads to the mind. And that's not theory. That's how we're getting these incredible results. We built the system based on just calming the body down. And when my body was calm, my mind went quiet. My mind used to say the most mean, horrible, ugly things to me nonstop. Couldn't get it to shut up. And now it's dead quiet. It's just quiet up there. Not because I quieted my mind, I quieted my body. But also it's the way we're mechanically wired. We are mechanically wired for survival, where the body feels what the body needs first, then the mind senses what the body is saying, and the mind is like a little computer, a little figure outer to get you what the body needs. You feel hunger in the body first, then your mind senses the hunger and then tries to figure out what and where to go eat. So imagine, you're in the jungle and you hear a sound in the bushes. You will feel fear, fight or flight in the body first. Then your mind senses that fear and goes into problem-solving mode. Mm-hmm. So it's body first, mind second. And your audience knows this, and I'll ask you, have you ever noticed, generally speaking, that when you feel a bit calmer in the body, usually your mind tends to be quieter and notice more good things. But usually when you feel more fear in the body, usually your mind starts to spin and find more negative, scary things to think about. Have you noticed that trend?
Yeah. And, it's accompanied by tension. And sometimes you feel sick to your stomach, or your stomach drops out, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. But the point is, I'm trying to show you that it's not starting in the mind. It starts in the body and then spreads to the mind. Do you sort of see that?
I didn't know that was the path, but I know that fear is, for me at least, is almost always accompanied by a bad feeling in the body. My insides are liquefying because I'm really afraid of something, or I just feel like a prickly sensation, but there's always a body component is what I've noticed so far.
Yes, there's always a body component. Now, if you don't study this like we do, you feel the body component and you can hear the mind component, and they fire at about the same time because it's a reflex. If you feel fear in the body first, your mind goes, oh God, there's a problem, and starts spinning. And it happens very fast. And if you don't study this like we do, you could think, well, maybe it's the mind first and the body second. So you may think, but I'm telling you, it's body first and it spreads to the mind, because again, when we built this toolkit, they just focused on the body. My body just went calm. I haven't felt fear, doubt, or anxiety above a 2 out of 10 for more than 5 minutes in about 8 years. But also my mind just went quiet. So the reason I'm pointing this out is sometimes people say, Daniel, how do you solve this so fast? Well, part of it is that the experts, while well-intentioned, sent you to the wrong location, the symptom. They sent you to the mind, and you can't ever solve things at a symptom level. So to all you people out there with the negative thoughts and the scary thoughts and the negative mindset, the reason it keeps coming back, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. It's as long as your body has fear, your mind will always think there's a problem and start to freak out, look for problems. It'll blame the future. It'll blame you. But it's not your fault. It's that the experts sent you to the literal wrong location of the root cause. But when you go to the actual root cause, the body, your success rate goes way up because you're actually in the right location. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could tell you one memory that just came up. I used to go, I would run like 3 to 5 miles, X number of times a week in college. And when I got done, I would sit on the couch and I would feel completely calm. And I haven't felt like that in a long time, but I felt just like utterly calm and just at peace when I would do that.
I mean, I'm so happy to hear that. And that feeling of calm is what we all want. That feeling of calm then gives you access to being the person you want to be. When we're afraid, everybody isn't able to be as confident, open-hearted. They don't have as much energy. Fear messes with us. And so that calm feeling, some people, I was working with a client. He was a British entrepreneur, very successful, but he had anxiety. He also had procrastination. And I showed him, I said, the root cause of this is in your body, you feel fear. You don't feel safe. And he said, yeah, I haven't felt safe since I was a kid. I said, I know. Welcome to the club. I said, we figured out where this unsafety feeling is coming from in the body. And I said, if we could help you feel safe, can you see how much better your life would be? And he said, oh my God, I would be so much better at everything I do, but also I'd just be happier. I said, I know it's hard to enjoy life when you're afraid. And so he went through, by about week 4, his anxiety was down about 80%. His productivity went from about 1 hour a day up to about 5 hours a day. The amount of time it took him to get started on a project went from about 90 minutes to about 7 minutes. And the amount that he could focus went from about 10 minutes in a row to about 90 minutes in a row. So the anxiety and procrastination were cleared up. But he said, when I was talking to him, he said, Daniel, I just woke up this morning feeling a feeling I haven't felt since I was a kid. I said, what? He said, I just felt calm, and it's not temporary. It's permanent. Like, this works. I said, I know. And so I'll explain to your audience how it's possible to have a permanent calm. But what we do is the program helps you feel safe, just safe from the inside out. So if you could feel safe from the inside out, Richard, and to your audience, just you felt safe, not because things were going well on the outside, not because people liked you, not because you were successful. You just woke up every morning feeling safe and calm from the inside out. how much better would you be at what you do, and how much better would your life be?
A lot. That would be a huge help.
And why would it be better?
Because if you start off the day feeling worried or dread, I mean, it colors the whole day. Everything you do is rush. Everything you do, you can't engage and immerse yourself in it. I mean, there's conversations you have where you're not even hearing anything. And you just, I don't know what you like go all internal in a way mentally when that happens.
Very well said. We are wired to keep ourselves alive. If you feel a low level of fear, that takes your priority and focus, not your dreams, not who you want to be, not the type of parent or person or leader or professional you want to be. The fear takes priority and it'll override. That's why people stay in their comfort zone. I work with clients all the time. They're like, I'm very successful. I'm in my comfort zone. I'm like, I know nobody wants to feel this fear and you're stuck. And no matter what you try, this will limit your ability to be happy. So what we found is, where is this fear coming from and why? And it's really simple. It's so simple. I had a client last week. He said, I'm kind of pissed off that the experts didn't figure this out earlier because it's really obvious. Okay, so once you go to the body, the beauty of the body is it's mechanical. There's systems in the body. The mind, nobody understands the mind. It's still early days of research. There's millions and billions of synapses and neurons. They don't understand the mind. But the body is very well mapped out. It's mechanical. There's bones and ligaments and arteries, and there's systems in the body. And engineers love systems. So we just asked ourselves, what system in the body might be malfunctioning and creating all this fear? And once you ask the right questions, as you know, you get the simple answer. So I'll ask you, Richard, and your audience, okay? Take out the word fear or doubt or worry or anxiety and just use the word nervous. If you had to guess which system in the body is malfunctioning and making everybody feel extra nervous, do you think it's the endocrine system, the coronary system, or the nervous system?
Well, probably all of them, but it's the nervous system, I guess, would be the most immediate.
Yeah, and why do you say it's the nervous system most immediately? Why do you say that?
Because you're talking about being nervous, so nervous means nerves. I guess that's the quickest association.
Yeah, you're right. It's the nervous system. Your nervous system is your body's mechanical, instinctive threat response system. If it's healthy and functioning, you feel like there's no threat and you feel safe. But if the nervous system is malfunctioning, which it is, you feel like there's an attack, whether there is one or not, and you feel unsafe. When you feel unsafe, you feel fear. Then the fear leads to the anxiety, the procrastination, the people-pleasing, the low self-confidence, the perfectionism, the overthinking, and the spinning mind. But what's important is it's so simple. There was a system in the body called the nervous system. You got the whole planet experiencing different versions of nervousness. And the experts were like, let's stick with the mind. No, if they had gotten great results, fine, but they weren't. We saw that the nervous system was malfunctioning, and I'll explain to you why. But the beauty is it's a system, and systems can be repaired. And when your nervous system is healthy, you feel safe. When you feel safe, the fear goes away. When the fear goes away, your life just gets so much better. The funky five go away, but for all the reasons you said, you're just more present. You enjoy life more. You leave the comfort zone because there is no fear to hide behind. So it's really simple. It's really mechanical. It's your nervous system that's malfunctioning. Now, I'll explain to you why it's malfunctioning, but first, I just want to be clear. The source of the fear is not your mind. It's the nervous system. Why? Spoiler, surprise, it's got the word nervous right in there. And the system that we develop, which is all the tools in one place and simple, easy to follow instructions, what it's doing over those 6 weeks is it's bringing your nervous system back to health. And that's what I feel every day. I feel calm, safe. I don't have fear. I do not care what people think of me. The idea of procrastinating doesn't even occur to me. Perfection, it doesn't even occur to me because I have a healthy nervous system. So I feel safe. And all those symptoms just vanish. And that's what we get people. So I'll explain to you why the nervous system is malfunctioning, but first, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. You express it differently. I feel this, I feel that. What I hear more is, I am nervous, I am anxious, I am depressed, I am that kind of stuff. That's what I hear from a lot of people. I don't hear I feel, I hear I am.
Well, it's a good point. So the reason it's a really good point, and whether you say I am or I feel, it still doesn't change the fact that, as you said earlier, there is a body component. When some people do say, even I have anxiety, or I feel anxious, or I feel afraid, or I feel worried. There's this, you'll feel it in the throat, your chest, your heart, your stomach, regardless of the language that you feel. But the reason it's important, what you brought up, is when people have had this for so long, and because they don't understand this is just a symptom of a malfunctioning nervous system, people start to say, I am anxious. I am a procrastinator. I am a perfectionist. I have low self-esteem. I am a people pleaser. And they start to identify with it. And it starts to become part of their identity, and like they're broken. And that's what leads to the fear of letting it go, because it's just part of who you are. And then people have this fear of like, well, who would I be without this? So I want to let your audience know you are not a procrastinator. You don't have anxiety. You're not an anxious person. This is just a body issue. If you don't brush and floss your teeth and your teeth are fragile, nobody says, I am a tooth pain person. Nobody says I am. They realize, oh, I just have tooth pain. Or if you sprain your ankle because you weren't taking care of it and you fell off a ladder, nobody says, I'm a recovering ankle pain person. No. You just see it's a symptom that systems in your body are malfunctioning. So it's a very good point, but trust me, you are not this. This is not your identity. It is not who you are or what you have. You didn't catch it. Right. You were never taught to take care of your nervous system. It's malfunctioning, and it's just a symptom that you can be free of.
Well, let me take it one point further. I started studying a little bit of what's called acceptance and commitment therapy, and it teaches you to say there is anxiety, there is fear. It's weird, and when I've tried it, it actually helps a little bit. It doesn't take it away, but it takes the edge off for some reason, and it's a depersonalized way of saying it. Maybe that's why it helps, but I just wanted to bring that up.
No, it's a good point, and the reason partly why it helps is it's lifting the shame and the guilt and the, oh God, there's something wrong with me, I'm trapped here. It sort of just makes it what is. So it takes the sting up, it takes the edge off. It makes a horrible situation less horrible. That's one reason. I remember that one. I tried that technique, but it goes into the category of management. Right. Whether you say I am or it is, it's making a horrible situation less horrible. But wouldn't it be nice if it was just gone so you didn't even have to use that technique?
Yeah, that'd be a million times better. So yeah,
it is a million times better.
Takes the edge off, but it's just, I just wanted people to understand there's like at least 3 ways to express it, even if none of them are successful.
And honestly, anxiety, fear, doubt, the funky five, there's so many ways to look at how we struggle. You can call it negative mindset. You can call it, I feel anxious, I am anxious. You can call it the ego. There's so many explanations but it's just what we saw is none of it, as far as we know, was a mechanical understanding of how to solve it quickly. It was just different explanations of the problem. And so, yes, there's many ways to talk about it, different modalities. And we always say, look, we're not saying any of those are wrong. We're just saying if you still have it and you'd like to be free of it, this is how we do it. And the reason we do it is because we saw why the nervous system was malfunctioning and making everybody feel unsafe. Do you want me to show it to you?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a super oversimplified explanation of why your nervous system is malfunctioning and you feel unsafe. So it's really simple. It's just to give you an experience so you know what I'm talking about. Because right now I'm just talking about the theory. So what we're going to do right now is a little role play to give you a very simple insight as to what's causing your nervous system to feel unsafe. Okay, so in this little role play, I'm talking to you, Richard, but I'm also talking to your audience. Okay, so in this role play, let's say we're friends. Okay, and all of a sudden, for reasons you don't understand, I start to be a really crappy friend to you. I'm mean to you. I'm unkind to you. I'm critical to you. I know what you need and it doesn't matter to me. I put everybody else ahead of you and I put you last. When you're struggling, I'm not understanding. I judge you. And when you really, really, really need me, I'm not only there for you, I tell you you're a bother and you need to get away from me. If I treated you that way for a while, would you feel safe around me or unsafe around me?
Yeah, I would stop telling you things and pretty quickly I'd stop interacting with you because I don't like how you make me feel or I feel when I'm around you.
That's true, but would you feel safe or unsafe?
Yeah, you're right. At some point, pretty quickly, I would feel threatened. Again, that's part of the not telling you anything personal because I would, your behavior would make me feel unsafe in telling you things that were important to me. So therefore, I would withdraw.
Exactly. You'd withdraw because you don't feel safe. And if you don't feel safe, you naturally withdraw. So what I just showed you is there's a link between care and how safe you feel. And the middle reason is because if I don't treat you with care consistently, I break your trust. When you don't trust me, you don't feel safe. When you don't feel safe, you feel fear and you withdraw. So there's a direct mechanical link in the body between care, trust, and safety. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now the beauty of understanding things mechanically is if you understand things mechanically, you know how to move something in one direction, but also the other direction. For instance, if you understand why people gain weight, which is they eat more calories than they burn, then you know how to lose weight, which is you burn more calories than you eat. So I can, in the same way I can make you feel unsafe through poor care, I can help you feel safer with good care. Because again, let's say we're friends, and then all of a sudden I turn to you and I say, oh my God, I am so sorry. I can see that how I've been treating you, you don't feel so good around me. And I want to be a much better friend to you. I'm going to put you first. I'm going to make you a priority. I'm going to stop criticizing you. When you really need me, I'm there for you, and I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to listen and do whatever I can to be a good friend to you. And I'm going to make you a priority. And when you need me, I'm there for you, and you can rely on me. If I then start to treat you more caring consistently, can you see that you'll start to feel more safe?
Yeah. This I'm reflecting on. There's very few people, but there's a couple people I know that they've always had consistent good behavior. So I trust them and I don't worry about a lot of things, AKA, I guess there's a lot less fear. I know that I feel like I know the person, they've never been different with me, and I can trust them more highly than I would trust other people.
Yeah, you can. And you said it, consistency. Consistency leads to trust. And then when you feel good around them, are you naturally a little bit more authentic around them?
Yeah, because you can be, right. You don't have to have your guard up. Yes.
Exactly. So if they treat you poorly and you feel fear around them because you don't trust them, you don't call that, oh, I lack confidence. It's like, no, they don't treat me really well. I don't feel really safe around them. And I kind of hide and withdraw parts of myself. So that's another example of not being our true selves isn't low confidence. It's a symptom of low care, leads to broken trust, leads to unsafety, leads to we hide and protect. Now, in this scenario, what I just showed you in this friend metaphor is there's a direct mechanical link between care, trust, and safety. It's universal, but we are in a relationship with ourselves. And is it fair to say, I'm asking you, Richard, and your audience, is it fair to say that you're not always a loving, caring friend to yourself?
Yeah, of course.
And when you say
luckily,
what do you mean?
No, I guess no one's perfect. Luckily, I'm not one of those people that says bad things to themselves very much. I know that some people, they do that a lot, like you said in the beginning of the call. So it's not, I'm not as far along in that spectrum, but at the same time, of course, no one is even close to being perfect. So that's why I said that.
Okay. Well, one of the common ways, and it's not a question of all or nothing, but most people will say, oh yeah, no, I can be really hard on myself. I beat myself up. I'm pretty critical. That's a very common one. There's a couple other things where people will say, yeah, I work too much. The average listener that has any level of self-awareness, which your audience has, they're aware that they're not always the best of themselves. That's not a newsflash. They're also aware that they have fear. What they don't know, what we discovered in our research was every day that you not loving you and you caring for you, a little bit every day adds up and accumulates and breaks trust such that over time, those little acts of you not treating yourself best build over time. They break trust with yourself and they affect your nervous system such that you don't feel safe from within. It's not your childhood. It's not society. It's not your job. It's not low confidence. It's little things about 10 to 30 times a day of you not being good to you that leaves your nervous system feeling unsafe. It's you to you, and you're doing it every day. That's why the fear and the doubt doesn't go away, because it's little things you're doing every day that reinforce it. If you're trying to lose weight, but every day, you cheat and you're eating more calories, you won't lose the weight. So we saw the number one cause of the fear, doubt, and the anxiety is little acts that you don't even know you're doing because nobody taught us to take care of our nervous system. And that's where the fear is coming from. Here, I'll give you another example of something that people don't get is creating fear. So a common one that people know about is they'll say, yeah, I'm really hard on myself. They know that one. But here's another one that people do. They know they do. What they don't know is that it's creating a feeling of unsafety in your body. A very common thing that people do or know people do this is deflecting compliments. Do you do this, or do you know people that do this, Richard?
Yeah. If someone compliments me, I'm like, you try to minimize it, or it makes me uncomfortable sometimes. And I've heard other people say that too.
Yeah. So you deflect compliments. You know you do it.
Yes.
You know it's not great, but you do it. And you know that you have anxiety and fear and doubt. Okay. What you didn't know is that deflecting compliments can leave you over time feeling anxious and afraid. And I'll show you. Again, let's just say we're friends, and I'm going to do an exaggerated version of deflecting compliments. So let's say we're friends, and let's say to you, Richard, and your audience, somebody compliments you and says, "Hey, good job." And then I, as your friend, jump in and I say, "No, you get that appreciation away from them. Okay, do not appreciate them. Do not celebrate them. Do not treat them well. In fact, all we need to do is criticize them when they mess up. That's how they deserve to be treated." If I did that to you as your friend, would you feel safe around me or unsafe around me?
I'd be pissed at you and curse you out.
Well, underneath anger is often fear. So again, would it break trust and make you feel unsafe, or build trust and make you feel safe?
Yeah, it would make me feel unsafe. I'll tell you one like horrible example from years ago. I knew this guy for about 10 years, and I overheard him in a conversation with somebody, and I knew he was lying because I knew the context. And I said to him, "Hey man, when the guy left, I say, 'Hey man, why are you lying to that person?' I said, 'That's not good.' And he goes, 'Don't worry, Rich. I would never lie to you because you'd see right through it.' And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, the last 10 years of knowing this person, what the hell? It threw the entire relationship like into a blender. It was horrible. And I've never forgotten it. Anyway, I'm going to relate that story.
No, for good reason. Any story that we are so wired for safety, and part of safety is trust, that stories that break trust and scare us, they stick with us for obvious reasons. But the point I'm making is people always want to know, where's the fear coming from and how do I get rid of it? And you can't get rid of it because every day there's 28 ways that we identified that you should be treating yourself well every day. You should be taking care of your nervous system, but we were never taught it. We were taught to brush and floss. We were taught to get enough sleep. We're taught to drink enough water. We're taught to eat right and exercise. But feelings and emotions and taking care of ourselves, we're not taught. We're never taught it. In fact, we're taught bad habits from when we were a child. So it's not your fault. But what's mechanically going on is you're accidentally treating yourself poorly from the criticism, the deflecting compliments, and 26 others about 10 to 30 times a day. And it's been building over time to leaving you feeling unsafe within yourself. And if you don't stop doing that and move from unhealth to health, then you're continually treating your nervous system with unhealth in little ways every day. And the fear, doubt, and worry will never go away. That's the bad news. However, if we want people to be free of fear, doubt, and anxiety, and I'm basically saying the fear, doubt, and anxiety is a symptom of little acts of unhealth from you to you every day that have been building up over time to create this feeling. Why, if we want to turn this around quickly, why is that understanding actually good news?
Because it's that'll be pulling the root of the problem out of the dirt, so you can you can get rid of it.
Well, you're pulling the root out, but is it anything like big or complicated or fancy, or is it little? Is it possible, like if you don't eat healthy and you make little unhealthy dietary choices, little acts of unhealth build over time and you'll gain weight. If you want to lose weight, you don't have to do anything fancy. There's no awakening, overcoming, pulling out the root. It's simple. You just move from little acts of unhealth to health, and the fat gets burned off. So the breakthrough of this huge thing, fear, is addressable with little, simple, easy to do things, which the system teaches you. You have all the tools and all the simple steps to follow. It's basically like a diet. Work these steps, work from unhealth to health, and we lay it all out for you. We tell you what to do every day, how many reps, and basically with little simple doable steps from unhealth to health, they accumulate over time. Your nervous system comes back to health. We know the body can heal when you take care of it. When your nervous system heals, you feel safe, the fear lifts, and you're free of this. And the benefit of this, people don't even know what this is, like what it's like to be really free of this. Last month, I had a woman come to me. She was a lawyer. She said, I have a lot of worry, a ton of overthinking, and a ton of low confidence. And I've been successful, but it's holding me back in my relationships. I'm not enjoying life as much. It affects me in so many ways. And she said, I met someone at a conference and they were swearing by us. They mentioned that you only charge at the end when you get measurable results. And she said, I like the idea of being free of this, but I don't even know what that means. I said, I know. You've had it for so long. You don't know what it's like to be free. I didn't know, Richard. Now I know what it's like to wake up every morning without fear. And it's incredible. All this energy you feel, this is not cocaine. This is like the natural excitement and enthusiasm of somebody who doesn't have the fear, doubt, and worry. So she was like, you know what? I can't even imagine. I just know it's worth a shot. So she went through the program, and around week 4, her confidence had gone up by about 70%, meaning the things, her needing people to like her, caring what people thought of her, needing approval, all of that was measurably down by about 70%. And she reached out to me and she said, Daniel, one, I just feel so much better, but also there's this version of me I didn't even know was it. Like, normally I had to get drunk to be authentic. Now I'm just authentic. I'm honest. I'm vulnerable. I speak from my heart. I'm not afraid. I'm just living life more. And I'm just the person I always wanted to be. And now I know, and it's permanent. So to your listeners out there, sometimes people say, well, what does it even mean to be free of this stuff? You don't really know because you've had it for so long. But I can tell you, it was the version of you that you were when you were a kid before the fear kicked in.
I do see a potential block here that would be very common in that, there is a large percentage of people, I would say, that talk badly to themselves. And so how are you supposed to, if I'm faced with like you're saying 10 little things a day or whatever, if you do them right, your body will feel better and then you won't have this fear. But if I punish myself, if that's my mindset, like I'm always saying bad things to myself, that would block. It could block me doing these little things, even if they're little, to make myself feel better because I don't deserve it, I feel, let's say, or I don't, whatever,
So theoretically, yes, if you can't stop doing this stuff, you keep doing it and you would continue to break trust with yourself. So when we set off to do this, it took us 8 years and all this testing to figure out how do you make a person change quickly in a way that blocks don't get in. The blocks are fear and unconscious beliefs. And part of the tools, what they do as you work the steps is it's basically rewiring you where you naturally treat yourself better. So we've addressed the blocks. That's why there's multiple tools. So absolutely, if you can't change this stuff, you won't feel better. The reason we have a 90% success rate, is because we've been testing and tweaking and optimized such that pretty much anybody, these ingrained habits change over time, 6 weeks, and you are treating yourself better. Now, you may say, Daniel, I've had this a really long time. I know. That's why it took a lot of years to figure out how to create deep change in a short period of time. And the beauty is you don't have to do it. Meaning you don't have to quote unquote change. Just like if you want to lose weight, you just have to lower your calorie intake and exercise. The fat burns itself. You don't have to understand fat cells. You don't have to go into each individual fat cell and say, hey, fat cell, I've changed my beliefs around you. I'm going to change my fat cell mindset. No, the healing just happens on its own. You just need to follow the steps and the mechanism of healing happens. So you don't have to quote unquote change. You just need to follow the steps that we've laid out for you that start off very simple and over time build such that at the end you have the change that allows you to treat yourself better. And that's how we get the results. For that very reason, we had to figure out how to get people to treat themselves better in a very short period of time. That took about 4 years to figure that out.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
And also what's great about it is we're getting people real freedom by getting them to just be healthy and loving to themselves. That's how we're doing this. Now, it's a bit more complicated and sophisticated than that, but that's essentially it. We're teaching people proper inner health and hygiene. We're not taught it. We're taught to beat ourselves up, repress our feelings, and we're teaching people proper inner hygiene and health. So the value of that is that this is what the world needs. We want this program to get into schools and teach this to kids. I spoke to 300 middle schools and high schools, teaching them daily emotional health and hygiene, these good habits so that they can be calm and confident. But we get parents that come to us all the time and they say, look, I'm anxious and I lack confidence and I'm doing these funky five and I'm passing it on to my kid and I see them in pain and it's heartbreaking because I can't stop it. I said, I know. And this happened 2 months ago. This woman came to me. She had anxiety, panic attacks, and perfectionism. And she said, I can see it in my kid. And they're a teenager now and they're getting just annihilated with social media and the bullying and it's heartbreaking. I said, I'm going to show you, well, you're going to learn over this 6 weeks, basic inner hygiene, such that your anxiety and perfectionism go away. But also you'll understand how to take care of yourself daily and your child will see you doing that and they will model your behavior. And we've seen the children of our clients have their anxiety and low confidence go away. And she said, are you kidding me? she kind of made a joke. She said, do I pay more for that? I said, no, it's built in. So she didn't really believe me but when I said, look, again, try it. If it doesn't work, you don't pay. So I think it was around week 5. The whole program is 6 weeks. She wrote me this message, and then I spoke to her on a call, and she was crying with gratitude. And she said, look, my anxiety it's down by about 90%. My perfectionism is pretty much gone. So I feel so much more free to be me, to make mistakes. I'm getting way more work done. I'm enjoying work more. I'm better at what I do. But that's not why I'm crying. I'm crying because yesterday my kid came home from high school. And I said, how was your day? And I said, well, I got bullied. The client, her name was Joanne, said, and I was preparing my teenager to say, and I'm just freaking out and I'm anxious. And Joanne said to her child, and her teenager said, I don't know, it just didn't bother me. She said, what do you mean it didn't bother you? And her teenager said, well, I mean, it didn't feel good, but it just didn't affect me. And Joanne said to her teacher, said, this stuff used to cripple you. What happened? And her teenager said, well, I've been watching you and I've been doing what you've been doing every day. And I don't know. I didn't like the bullying, but there was no anxiety and I didn't care what people thought of me. It was just gone. And Joanne said, I cannot tell you what a gift that is. I have my life back, but I now am going to have a calm, confident child, which is what any parent would want. And that's because what we're teaching isn't the symptom, it's the healing that not only you can get for you, but you can model it so you can show others how to do it in your life.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I keep thinking of stupid jokes to say, but it's not appropriate, so I don't say them. Such as, I was afraid you were going to say that, but I'm holding them back. But this is a great
Well, I appreciate the warning, but now I'm curious, what was the joke?
Oh, that was one of them. Like, I was afraid you would say that or, that kind of stuff.
You were afraid I'd say what?
Oh, I don't know. At various times I thought that, again, it was just a joke that came to mind, but I didn't want to say it. So,
but wait, I'm just not clear. You were afraid you would think what? What was the thought or thing you were afraid you were going to say?
No, just at various times when you'd say stuff and, you talked about a positive result, I would joke and say, oh, I was afraid you were going to say that. That's all, that joke. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I have all people like jokes, but I also, what we're doing, it's so important that the world is hurting and the world, whether the violence, and there's just so much that's affecting our planet that's rooted in fear. And we figured out that the root cause is just this daily care. And no one saw this simple solution. Florence Nightingale, more people were dying in recovery than on the battlefield in the 1850s. That's what Florence Nightingale, the nurse, saw. And nobody cared. The doctors and the generals just said, don't worry about it. But she cared. She said, we got to solve this. And she figured out the simple solution of hygiene. You got to change the bandages, open the windows, and move the soldiers away from the toilets. And the death rate dropped by 99%. A simple thing that literally saved millions of lives. So what we're doing is simple and it's saving lives, but also nobody's seeing this. And so I care because we need to get this knowledge to people. One, just so your listeners can be free of this fear, doubt, and anxiety. So the Funky Five go away and you can just be happier and be a better person, make more money, but also our kids. We need to get this into schools and prisons. It's what the world needs. So yes, I make jokes, but man, when we figured this out, this was serious business because not seeing this link between care and how we behave, the planet is in a bad state. Because the program's online, it's scalable, it's affordable, so we can get it to millions of people. And so that's where all this passion and excitement and why, to me, this is very serious is because we've got people's lives in our hands and we've developed something that for multiple reasons can help millions, if not billions, quickly, effectively, and affordably. That's why it matters.
Well, I'm with you. I don't mean to minimize it or anything. In terms of self-care, so one thing that came to mind while you're talking is don't watch the news obsessively or try not to watch it at all, or maybe look at it once a week instead of 50 times a day. I've been through that, and all it does is just makes you anxious and upset. And the news is actively trying to trigger you and, take away your homeostasis there and make you anxious and make you upset. That's their whole business model. So one example of self-care, again, is stay away from it, I would say.
Well, on the one hand, you're right, but I'd like to be really clear because this idea of self-care is misunderstood. And if you misunderstand it, you'll miss what I'm saying. So yes, self-care, people know about that and loving themselves. The issue is when you have neglected a system long enough, it goes past a state of symptom management and goes into a real state of disrepair. And just doing a bit of self-care won't turn it around. If you don't brush and floss for a week, your gums may start to bleed. If it's just a week, you can start brushing and flossing and your gums come back to health. But if you've neglected your teeth long enough, now they get infected and now you need a root canal. At that point, brushing and flossing won't turn it around. You need to bring it back to health, which is what this system does. So yes, staying away from the news now that your nervous system is blown out is a good idea. It won't make you as anxious, but your nervous system is still malfunctioning. It's symptom management. It is a form of self-care. But the fact is, when we ask people, hey, what forms of self-care do you know about? They know about 5 out of the 28. So if you know, let's say, oh, I shouldn't watch the news, that makes it worse. Or I know I should do this. You know 5, maybe 10, but there's more that you're doing that you don't know about. And if you don't know it, you're doing them every day. So yes, staying away from the news, short term, it's a good idea to think, but I don't want you to think if you just stay away from the news, take better care of yourself, this is going to heal itself. Once you need a root canal or once you're having a heart attack, things have gone too far and little adjustments won't bring it back. You need a complete rehabilitation of the system. This is what our program does. Does that make sense that if you're having a heart attack because your arteries are blocked from decades of poor health, at that point, it's like self-care is a little bit too late. You need a serious overhaul of the system.
Yeah, I'm with you. What's one unexpected self-care method that when you tell people, they're like, what? Really? That might be a good thing to talk about.
Well, on the one hand, it is a good thing to talk about. But first of all, I don't want to call it self-care because that, even though I'm using it, because that phrase, self-care, self-love, is very misunderstood and it's imprecise. And I'm really trying to give people precise understandings of what's going on. The other thing is, I could tell you, oh, do this one thing, but that wouldn't bring your system back to health. It would at best manage it. And I'm trying to revolt against the tip and tool for management. What the value of the program is all the tools in one place done over 6 weeks that brings your whole system back to health. And you have to do the whole system. So I don't like to break off a little piece because that's not what is going to help people be free of it. It's the whole system that you need. If you want tips and tools and insights, there's tons of people that'll give you that. I'm focused on one thing, which is you need the whole system to bring your nervous system back to health completely in a short period of time. So I hope you understand.
That makes sense. Yeah, I've got you. I just thought it'd be interesting to hear one unusual, tip to help yourself that maybe people are surprised.
Well, I hope what they are surprised by is not the tip or the tool, but this idea that whether you know you're doing it or not, you have a nervous system in your body. And if you don't take care of it daily, it breaks trust. For a lot of people, that's a huge breakthrough. They're like, oh my God, all that stuff I was doing, working too much, staying in that relationship, it was a huge wake-up call for me and some of our clients in the very beginning. That's one of their first big epiphany is, oh my God, I'm not an anxious person from all these acts of neglect. I don't trust myself deep down, how I treated myself for years. So the takeaway I would tell your audience, which will hopefully give them some compassion, is what you're experiencing is broken trust from you to you over little things that have built up over time. That's the key. It's not a big thing. It's little things that have been building over time. You're not broken. You're not flawed. There's nothing wrong with you. Little things went missing, and what you're feeling is broken trust, which makes you feel unsafe. And that's what you're experiencing. That
makes sense.
Does that help?
Yeah. I guess last question of this vein. I know it's getting late and I appreciate you staying. Do people feel overwhelmed when you say you really need to know about these 20 things that reduce your self-care or break the trust with yourself? Do they feel like, oh my God, there's so many things I have to be aware of now, in order to do this right?
It's a good question. First of all, you don't have to do all 28. If you had to do all 28, we wouldn't pull this off in 6 weeks and have a 90% success rate. I invite people to try and stay away from the what ifs. We have worked so hard so that you really can't fail at this. So when your mind goes to, what about this? What about this? What about this? We wouldn't have a 90% success rate in 6 weeks if we hadn't already tested this and found all the what ifs and built that into the system. So if you have this doubt of what is this? What about this? What about this? I would invite you, just listen to me. What matters is results. Even if you have doubt and skepticism, if you are focused on the result, your doubt and skepticism go down. It's fine to have some doubt and skepticism, but we have found that if you are just listening, going, wait a minute, I have a shot at being free of this quickly so that I could be happier and more confident and be the person, a parent, a partner, and leader I want to be finally. And it's no risk to try. If you're really focused on the result and the fact that you only pay at the end, you get results, which means we're getting results. If you just stick with that part, it'll keep you out of the what ifs and what abouts. Because if you go there, it just creates more doubt and more worry. I invite you, stick to the important thing of what if you could be free of this, and it's no risk to try. So have your doubt, have your worry, but since there's no risk to try, would you agree, Richard, that it's worth trying, even with doubt and worry?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The last thing I want to ask you is, so you said you have a 90% success rate. That sounds like an honest number. To help people not become the 10% it doesn't work for, what constitutes the 10%? Why does it not work 100%? And I'm not trying to be unreasonable, but just to prepare people mentally why it may not work for them.
That's a great question. So what we've engineered is mechanical and applies to everybody. It's like going to the gym. A gym works for everybody. If you take 100 people and they lift heavy things in repetition, you get stronger. But not everybody may go to the gym, even if the gym works. Agreed?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
We worked very hard to make the program effective, make it really simple and easy to follow. And so we get 9 out of 10 people that complete the program are either free of it or almost completely free of it. However, it's only 6 weeks and we're trying to undo lifetime habits and patterns. It's not a lot of time. So anybody that uses the tools longer than 6 weeks, we go up to about 95%. Also, when you're using the tools, we don't always know what you're doing. We don't know how deep you're going. We don't know. So oftentimes it's just because either people aren't quite ready. There's some unconscious sabotage. We tried harder and harder to lower it, but it's only 6 weeks. So that's where the 10% is. Now, for people that are interested in the program, you have a call with me. You can go to our website, danielpackard.com. You can find out more about the program, how it's laid out, how much it takes, how much it costs, which, trust me, is way less than you'd think, about the no change, no charge guarantee. And if you're interested in the program, you and I have a call and I understand your situation and I'm seeing if you're a good candidate. Now, it's really almost everybody is. But if I sense that it's not the right time for you, sometimes people are in so much pain and in such a vortex of pain, they're just not even really able to even apply the tools. And I'm that almost never happens, but I'm double checking. And if we don't think it's going to get you results, we don't let you do the program, because then you're going to try and fail and feel worse about yourself. And that is the last thing we want. So 90% is because it's only 6 weeks. It's not a lot of time. 90% in 6 weeks is incredible. But then also I'm going to talk to you and make sure that you don't fall into that. And then also, we're always just improving the program. It's technology. Technology improves. We're at 90% right now. At one point, we were at 60, then we got up to 75, then we got up to 90. So it's up to me, the engineer, the developer of this technology, to figure out ways how to get it to 100. So the other reason it's at 90 right now is that's where the technology is at. And we are striving every day, looking at data, tweaking and optimizing, trying to get it to 100. So it's at 90 right now. I'm very proud of it, but I hope one day we get it to 100.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, Daniel, thanks so much for spending all this time. We spent quite a lot of time in this interview, and your passion and your exuberance for this is just, it's great. And you're doing something that really is desperately needed by, I can't even imagine how many millions of people need it. So how can people take action now that they've listened? Where do they go to start engaging with you and, see if they qualify for the course?
Well, first of all, Richard, I love the fact you use the word action, because people are conditioned when it comes to self-improvement and psychology to always be learning, exploring, understanding. And what we're doing is we're solving. And to solve it, you got to take action. And because of that unconscious fear that people have to let this stuff go, they'll hear me on this podcast and they go, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. It's not the mind, it's in the body, it's the nervous system. Wow, you could bring the system. Oh, wow, and they only pay, logically, they should take action, but they're unconscious sabotage, and they'll say and they'll just walk away with this information. I'm telling your audience, don't just take what you heard and go, oh, that was interesting. It's more than interesting. This is an escape plan out of the cave that you are stuck in. So take action. Get to the website. Your mind will try and tell you, oh, that was interesting. That guy has made some good points. And you'll drift off to the world of just learning more about yourself. And I'm saying, stop learning about yourself and get the escape plan. And for that, take action. Most of your audience won't, but your audience is listening. It's intrigued. And has a brave, open mind, they will take action. And what you do is, I like things simple. I'm Daniel Packard. Go to danielpackard.com. And there's 2 options, both of which you get a free call with yours truly, which I think is pretty incredible. I'm incredible. And take it for me, that's from someone that thought I was a piece of crap and hated myself. I now believe that talking to me is a real gift. So you have 2 options to talk to me for free. One is a quick next steps call where I learn more about you and how you want to be and the life you want to live. And I'll give you some quick, simple, easy to follow, actionable steps that'll move you in the direction of less fear and less funky 5 and more joy and fulfillment. Or if you're listening to this going I got some tips and tools, I want the 6 weeks, go to danielpackard.com, find out about the program, how it's laid laid out. There's basic information, the price, the no change, no charge guarantee, testimonials of people who are living free of this stuff. And for those of you who are ready to change and you want to know more, you book a free call with me. You can ask me questions to address your skepticism and doubt, make sure it's a good fit for you. I'm going to make sure it's a good fit for you. It almost always is. And if you want to do this and I allow you to do this, which almost everybody does, you could start to feel better within a few days from now. So again, if you are interested in taking action, which you should be, but not all of you will, go to danielpackard.com, either a next steps call or learn more about the program and see if it's a good fit by having a free call with me, which you can book at danielpackard.com.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for coming, Daniel. I really appreciate it. It's been a great call. Thank you.
It was my honor, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.